So tell me about the process when, so you had your Canvas version of to the Stars and Back. Tell me about the process and what that looked like moving from Canvas to Originals, like the art, maybe the storytelling.
So there were quite a few changes, both in process and also with just getting used to the fact that now I'm uploading or trying to upload at the time to a very strict deadline, which when I was on Canvas, it was more of a loose deadline because obviously nobody's policing that. Um, so I had to be a little bit more strict with that. And the episodes were definitely a bit longer. I know that To the Stars and Back has shorter episodes, but they were even shorter on Canvas.
Hmm.
But I actually started To the Stars and Back on my Instagram. So in
Mm.
2020, in everybody's favorite year, that we we I started it on my Instagram as just something fun that I wanted to do. I had no intentions at all to make it into a series. It was just something that I did because I wanted to play around with a simple art style and the fancy coloring because I like to call it like a sunset palette because it's very like
It's
orange and pink.
very warm toned. Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
but I love it. So I was just playing around with it, but I realized that people had like a really positive reaction to this stuff that I was making up as I was going along. And I realized that I really enjoyed it. So that's how it kind of ended up being more of a series, and I uploaded it to Canvas. But the process of turning it into a fully fledged, hopefully to be completed webtoon was really difficult, but it was also really fun because I had to make sure that my plot points made sense and that everything kind of flowed. And I had to make sure this was like one of my least favorite parts, and I think it will always be, is trying to fit the story within a certain number of episodes. So like season one was 101 episodes, and I had to try to fit it within that
Hmm.
sort of section. That's probably the hardest part, but I think I'm getting a little bit better at it.
Yeah. I would assume that, you were never planning on having it as a serialized kind of thing, and then suddenly having to like have a structured story. How was it working with your editor? Like, were they super involved or they just kind of give you the reins to do what you'd like?
So my editor is really great. So she helped me a lot at the beginning. We did a lot of drafts, we did a lot of stuff, and she kind of just made sure that the story was going where it should be in terms of like making sure that every episode was interesting, it was engaging, because I haven't done it to that level of professionalism. There's a lot that goes into it. Like you got to make sure that every episode has something that happens that's interesting. And so she would kind of help me with that. And she would help me with making sure we get the most out of each of the panels so that they make sense. And she did that for a while. Like I would share drafts with her and everything. But once I started to get settled and I started to feel a little bit more confident in my abilities, and she could clearly see that now I know what I'm doing, like I've picked up on all of the advice and the skills so far. About halfway through season one, she kind of just gave over the reins to me and was just like, you know what, I feel confident with what you're doing,
Hmm.
so like now you can kind of go off and do it on your own. And I kind of I prefer that approach. Like I want to learn as much as I can from doing webtoons. Like I always want to learn and get better at storytelling and paneling and structure and everything like that. So having that help at the beginning of just really intensely like watching over what I'm doing to make sure that everything is the best that it can be. And then when I feel like I'm a little bit more confident, just let me figure it out myself, and then learning through the experience and problem solving by myself instead of having somebody that like holds your hand to make sure that everything's perfect as it should be. So I really like the way that she does that. That works the most for me. But obviously, not everybody has that sort of experience. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that an editor can help you, but that's how she
Hmm.
helped me, and I really like that.
Yeah. Was it nerve-wracking to present your story to them for the first time? Like when you had to pitch it
Oh,
and everything?
absolutely, absolutely. I was terrified because I was like, I saw what was on Webtoon. And I was just like, no, it's like it's really more low key, it's kind of chill. Like, what if they don't like that sort of stuff? Because back in the day, like when I launched my To the Stars and Back series, like slice of life was not really a big genre. There were
Mm-hmm.
very few slice of life webtoons that had story based plots.
Mm-hmm.
More of them were kind of like the little fun daily comics or more of a really casual slice of life. I feel like I was one of the first ones that had a story driven slice of life that kind of followed a plot. And so I was really worried that because I was following a plot compared to all the other plots on Webtoon that were like really dramatic and interesting and everything like that, I felt like, oh, well, what I have to offer them isn't really like big and exciting and grand. So I was like, I hope that the charm of it and the art style itself kind of convinces them that there's something there. But I was terrified because I really wanted to be greenlit, and
Mm-hmm.
it's never confirmed that if you get an offer that you will be greenlit. There's still a chance
Mm-hmm.
that they could be like, you know what, like it's not really what we're looking for, but thank you so much, and then you go on your way. So I was like, please, please like it, I'm begging you. And they
Yeah.
did, so I'm very happy.
Good. That yeah, I feel like that would also be nerve-wracking because like I mean, you said you started doing webcomics when you were like 10,
Yeah.
but it wasn't anything that was like super like a solid story, right?
No, and I never finished any. Like, this is the
Mm-hmm.
first one that I've ever finished. I've
Yeah.
started so many comics and I've done so many comics. But going through the entire process of like beginning, middle, and end, this is a first for me. But I think it went pretty well. I'm very happy with it. It's not perfect by any means, but I feel like for my first go, I'm really proud of it.
I gotta say, when I first picked up To the Stars and Back, I was already very hooked because I love the art style. Obviously, I'm a webtoon creator, I'm a very visual person. So I was already hooked on the art style because it's simplistic, but it's beautiful.
Oh,
And
thank you.
then I got introduced to Kangdae and Bosan. Like, I loved how wholesome everything was. Like, I know you said you think it's not perfect, but from a reader perspective, I have just adored the entire story that I've read. I
Oh,
love the
I'm so
characters,
glad.
the art style, the way you compose panels. I could go on and on about it all day.
Oh, thank you
But
so much.
it has traits and like it has a charm that a lot of other originals that I've read that don't have. I feel like there is so much intention behind the storytelling that you created.
Oh, thank you so much. No, that means a lot to me because I always worried about like, oh, how simple it is. But over time, like that was kind of the charm that I loved about it. That because I don't make stories like this. This is like out of my comfort zone.
Hmm.
Normally, what I make are the types of stories that are big and dramatic and full of stuff. So trying to do something that is really low key and calming and chill and fluffy was a really good challenge for me because what To the Stars and Back taught me was how to show restraint and how to pull back because the like big epic moments that happen in To the Stars and Back are important, but knowing how to pull back and allow the characters to just spend time with each other simply, having those little domestic moments or the little fun moments where they're, talking to each other or connecting through their interests. I had to find ways to make that interesting without it sounding like something that would be like, okay, let's just move on to like the next big event because they're not really doing anything. It taught me so much about trying to keep those moments intact
Hmm.
instead of just throwing in a bunch of drama, which is why I don't tend to dive too deeply into the traumatic aspects of the story I didn't want to show any of the abuse or show any of the bullying or any of the really hard hitting moments, because I feel like that pulls away from the story and from the vibe and the genre that I really wanted to go for. So it taught me a lot of restraint and when to go forth with moments and when to just pull back. And I couldn't have gotten that from just making my normal big stories. But now that I've learned that, I can bring that into my next story and my next webtoon that I want to make, because now I know when to make things a big moment and when to just allow the characters to just sit. And I didn't know that before. I didn't know how to do that. So I offer a lot of thanks to the Stars and Back for teaching me that.